at the Almond Board of California. And I have with me today Chef John Sukor of Core Food Innovation, who has worked with us for many years, innovating around interesting and creative ways to use almonds in ways that you just think you would just never expect to see. Last year, actually just at this presentation, he showed an almond cream, and he will be taking that to the next level today, showing you some more things to do with it. And then also back at our booth, at booth 3913, come back and visit us, and you can sample some more of the things that we are doing with almonds, such as a brewed almond tea. Tomorrow we're doing some almond crunch and different almond butters. So just really innovative ways to use almonds. And then today, after we're done, if you're sitting near the front, like these four ladies who have been very patiently sitting here for about a half an hour, you will you will have the chance to taste some samples of the product, of the cream, and then you can also taste that back at our booth. And then also, at the back of the room, we will have some collateral materials and recipe cards for what's being shown today, too. So you can grab those, again, back there or at our booth. And now I will turn it over to John to show you what he's doing.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you very much. So you're here for a few reasons, right? And my guess is, number one, you love almonds. We're satisfying that with what was on your chair, I guess. You're enjoying. I see lots of little jaws moving, so you're crunching, and that's great. We love that. It certainly is the world's most recognized nut. It says a lot to people about nutrition, about a premium ingredient. Certainly in other countries, the research we do indicates if something has an almond in it, that it's premium, and it commands, commands a premium price when sold and purchased. I'm hoping some of the other reasons that you're here is for inspiration, and you're probably nutrition curious. And my goal is to satisfy your needs with some insight into the world of almonds. A little bit about almonds. So yes, we're an innovation company, and to me, I'm one and the same with the Almond Board. We've been with them for almost 6 years now, and I consider myself a member of the family. Our goal really isn't to show you that you can sprinkle almonds on a salad, include them in a muffin. I think you get that. And the forms are certainly recognizable, or they wouldn't be so recognizable. Crushed, sliced flour, which is you probably heard is becoming, very prevalent in the world of gluten-free baking and so forth. So I've chosen a more difficult path. I've chosen the path of maybe a more creative route, but certainly one that is not so obvious, and that is creating new forms of almonds. Forms that are relevant to today's nutrition, forms that are relevant to today's product development, and again, not so obvious. The creme, as we're talking about, I want to say cream, but we know there's a product identifier for what cream is, and this isn't. But almond creme makes sense. It was sort of a stumble upon. So I like to do a lot of product development in our studios, and we make a lot of our own almond milk. So that mash, if you want to call it, that's left over is still this beautiful white, sort of neutral and sweet, creamy flavor. So quite intentionally, a little bit of bacteria fell into that the first time, and lo and behold, I had a very Greek yogurt type product. And that started to inspire further development. So later, we added different ingredients to it, and what you're going to taste at our booth, and not here, that's my trick, that's how I get you to the booth, is a cheese-like product. So we went after, if you're familiar with something like Boursin cheese. So it's a Neufchâtel cheese, it's loaded with flavor, garlic, herbs, and so forth. And I think that's a little of what you're going to taste at our booth. So what I'm doing is sort of defining a new category for almonds that you're going to see. And we've got many others to inspire you at the booth. But to me, this world of almond milk is very well defined. It's over on this side. It's competing extremely well in the world of milk alternatives or milk additions, not replacers. And then you have this other extreme area, to me, is sort of that aged cheese variety. So you can see some really great mimickers of sharp cheddar, hard pressed cheeses that the almond plays really well in that arena as well. But in my opinion, there's this middle category for a lot of reasons, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But this middle category that I believe is going to be a remarkable boom and boon, if you will, as well, to someone who invests further in the technology and production of it. It's that other dairy category of sort of the creamy category, I call it. Things like ricotta cheese, creme fraiche, sour cream, and of course this remarkable pro and prebiotic category we know as yogurt. Why I think we're so important there. By description, organoleptically, when you start tasting a natural almond, or rather in this case a blanched almond, it's very creamy. It has similar fat content to dairy milk. It has similar sweetness that dairy has. And visually, the fact that it gets very pure white when it's soaked is really important. I don't have to color it in order for it to look like a dairy product. So for a lot of really profound and all-natural reasons, it's a phenomenal dairy mimicker. You can sort out all of the reasons statistically and nutritionally why it's important to understand what dairy mimickers are. I'm just here to prove to you that it's a great one. And so we will do that at our booth as well. So I think what I like about that category and why I think it's so profound is the almond milk industry, which is growing as we see it, has a byproduct. It has this mash, which is left over after the creation of almond milk. Well, if you can take something that's a byproduct and add water to it, another relatively affordable ingredient, and come up with another growing category, don't leave yet and go start working on this. Stay here with me. And you should go run and take care of it. But is a really successful use of food, not waste, a remarkable use of nutrition as well. So on that note as well, we spend a lot of time sort of studying consumer need states. That's a phrase that's been wearing out in my mind and wearing out on my palate lately, because it's been a really great realization owning a marketing agency that does innovation is ultimately if we don't have a consumer, we've got nothing to work on. And so really focused in on what consumers not only want, but what they truly need. There's been many speakers, and I was really delighted to hear the subject matter of the former CEO of Trader Joe talk about the issues with diabetes, the issues with obesity. You know, what I do to respond to that is that tells me I need to select nutrient-dense ingredients to create nutrient-dense foods. And in an all-natural package like an almond, I have an easy job ahead of me. It's really just now up to my creativity. I think that's where the RCA and other culinologists like myself really play well. We're not always bound by the rigidity of food science. We are here to learn from our partner food scientists, but we're kind of the rogue creative guys that started in the restaurant world. I started in the Marine Corps and in Johnson and Wales. So my beginnings were really founded on deliciousness. And I say that word all the time because that's our goal when we step into the lab. And if my chefs were here, they would nod with you. They're busy working on samples at the Almond board right now. But they would nod and say, that's right, John doesn't let us leave the kitchen until we've accomplished deliciousness. There's a lot of products, a lot of ingredients, there's a lot of stabilizers and inclusions that we work on, and we're sort of, I'm just generalizing, so bear with me, but we're sort of okay with just getting the job done and saying, it's stable, all right, everybody go home. This is the food industry, and if we're not standing for deliciousness, we're in the wrong business. So please, please, please don't leave your labs until you've accomplished deliciousness. So again, back to why I like working with almonds. I've started to, again, challenge myself with new forms. And I'm going to create one for you that's turned into, while in the beginning felt like a center of the plate ingredient, like this creme, wow, I can do so many things with it. Now, to me, that's turned into a form, which to us, a form is just a building block in creating other things. So just a few examples of what we've created. I mentioned a Greek yogurt style product. So very simply put, the mass of water and almonds ground, inoculated, and then flavored just like you would a yogurt product. So it really stands alone, and maybe the food scientists in the group can tell me why, but there's enough carbohydrate to feed the bacteria. There's enough natural goodness going on in the almonds once it's been broken down and sort of all of its nutrition exposed. There's enough good stuff going on there that I didn't have to add other carbs to this mass in order for the bacteria to do its work. So profoundly stated, it stands alone to become something that's a probiotic cultured food product. that became the base for what you're going to taste at our booth, being a cheese. I talked about a spread. Back to need states, why is all of this really important? Well, nutrient density. Again, we want snacks that are not only empty calories, that are not only just giving us something tasty, but we want to be sustained. We want energy that's going to last the day, last to our next meal period, and not have our doctor scowling at us when we go get our cholesterol checked, and like me. I've really made a big life decision to find snacks that are healthy for me and take myself off of Lipitor, which I've done successfully. So really important, the nutrition around this has been a big part of why we're doing it. Let me show you how. I was really pleased to have to do this demo because of how simple it is. I'm adding ingredients to a blender, and I'm going to beat the daylights out of it. It's going to be a little loud. Just bear with me. One of the things you notice is just how pure white it gets as it's hydrating. They're soaked overnight. I'm going to shut it off because I think you get it. They're soaked overnight, and they some varieties, and there's a good amount of varieties out there. The primary one you see is nonpareil, but they nearly double in size. And I encourage you to come up and take a look at these that had been soaking, but they nearly double in size, and they get really creamy white. Again, back to that dairy mimicker. You know, what is dairy milk? It's white when you start out with it, and then it's changing based on what you add to it. So the product makes, again, a very neutral, creamy, viscosity product with some really great fats, some really great proteins as well. I know the world of protein is growing as well. But I'm going to set a few of these up here if somebody wanted to sort of take a look at it. It's going to be somewhat plain, if you will, but again, I use that to my benefit, working with something that's a great starter. I always love sort of being here early because it gives me some cues on what to talk about, and one of the things, I'm not going to call her out because I don't want to embarrass her. But there's nothing to be embarrassed about. I loved what I heard. The question was, why? What are you talking about when you say vegan ice cream? Well, guess what? This is also a base for frozen desserts, and remarkably easy for us to present a vegan frozen dessert like this. Maybe not ice cream, because again, I know there's an identifier to what that is, and fat content, and what's premium, and so forth. But the bottom line is that you can accomplish it because of the ability of this product to be a dairy mimicker. So much so that I'll give you another little anecdote. So I think it was about 4 years ago now that we launched that in and of itself as a frozen dessert. So we did something which I think is, for some reason, the food industry attracts a lot of people from Asia, and particularly I love, and actually I have some folks from India on my staff. But I love that cultural food. It's rich in flavor. It's rich in a dynamic of concentrated nutrition as well. And I love to eat it. So actually what we created, the first frozen dessert we created was kulfi, which is an Indian frozen dessert. Because there are a lot of people from India here, I was really excited to see what the response would be like. And I'm going back 4 years ago now, but I'm recalling pretty clearly in my mind disbelief. Disbelief in the people who were trying it that it was not a dairy-full kulfi. I think primarily theirs begins with a concentrated milk, like a sweetened condensed milk, so it's very sweet and very creamy. But we mimicked that. We mimicked it with the basis of something like this almond creme and achieved something that was nearly unbelievable that it was dairy-free. So I guess I'm encouraging the right kind of product development, sticking to deliciousness. I'm encouraging the notion that it can be done. And actually, though this might seem like I'm suggesting replacing a dairy product, I'm actually paying homage to it and giving it a lot of respect. Because I believe if I'm going to do this, it has to be as good as dairy, or why do it? The fact that I can do this and mimic it should represent my desire to actually show a lot of respect to the dairy industry, because it's a high mark to hit. So I encourage your creativity. I encourage you to always step into your lab with deliciousness as your focus, not just stability in whatever you're working on. And I encourage you to stop by our booth once again and take a look at what we're doing with this almond creme, with the cheese we've created. And I guess the last notion I want to tell you is that in the world of food science, I realize that there's a strong sense of propriety, strong sense of formula, that we don't want people to know our formulas. Quite the opposite in my case. I encourage plagiarism. It's how I'm guaranteed that a lot of farmers are going to be happy about the amount of almonds that are being used in the US, is if my recipes get stolen. So I encourage you to take a look at almonds.com. Pardon me. It's loaded with our recipes, and these are also commercial ready. So the fact that my staff and I have a background in commercial formulation, they're ready to be commercialized. And if you feel like you still need more notes, give us a call. We know what the processes are, and we'd be happy to help along. Big companies, I know the strike rate is long, and if there's anything we can do to encourage the use of almonds in product development, it's our goal, and it's what we do for a living. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Come see us at our booth, and I'm really open to any of your questions now as well about either the creme or anything about almond applications in food product development. We have a mic that just raise your hand, because we really want to hear what your questions are and answer them as accurately as we can.
Great. And I wanted to mention, too, that the two flavors I forgot to say earlier that we're sampling at the booth are a sesame, thyme, and honey flavor on this, and then also a savory fig and herb one. So those are just, really creative, interesting things. So questions?
Oh, come on. Wow, I'm good.
Chef John, can you share with us some other types of products we can make with this cream, or the creme, I should say, and how you would go about doing it, like the products that they're showing at the booth. How did you come up with that idea, and what else you can do to move that forward?
Yeah, so one thing that jumps to mind most readily, the question was, what other applications would this cream or the creme, almond creme, have? There's a category of product development right now I mentioned in the very beginning of our session that has to do with a type of baking. Gluten-free baking is a challenge. If anybody's tried it, you're missing the stickiness of the gluten, and it's a challenge. And I'm actually gluten intolerant, so I do a lot of it. But one area of gluten-free that seems to be really important to me is batters. We have some formulation on our website that includes like a waffle batter, like a pizzelle, that beautiful crisp little waffle that comes out of Italy that's like a cookie. And this makes a remarkable stepping off point of that batter. It's the beginning of that batter. And then you have to add some other ingredients to it to build a flavor and the structure of the dough. But it makes a remarkable starter. So outside of this dairy mimicker of that whole cheese and soft dairy category, it also plays really well in the beginnings of gluten-free baking. So that's another area that I like to see it perform in. And then the second part of your question was just how we went about the R&D. Very serendipitously, and I think kicking down a lot of fences and a lot of misconceptions of what can't be done, that turns me on. Tell me something can't be done. You just set my path before me, because I'll prove to you that it can be. I think that I don't have a lot of preconceived notions of how food works and how it doesn't, because I'm a chef. That's how I grew up, in culinary and marketing. So I think we set out to sort of break those rules and create new food lines and food products that are not only satisfying to the palate and the eye, but I think also satisfying from the perspective of taking advantage of something that might be underutilized or not so recognizable. Again, as we said when we came in, the almond form is recognized worldwide. This creme is something that's not. So if I can create that awareness, create a new recognized form, it allows us to sort of send that nutritional message in a way that's keeping your ingredient deck really natural, which is what I like, but giving you a stepping off point, I think, to take this into your development lab and use it in your applications as well. One other area I'll tell you, you mentioned tea earlier, Molly, and that was a really fun, inspirational point. Come and try our chai. So instead of tea leaves, we did a not so dark roast. We did sort of a caramely roast on almonds, ground them and steep them, and you end up with this tea-like beverage, which happens to be very unctuous and very full of nutrition. The fatty acids make their way into the mix as well, so it's a nutritious beverage as well as really flavorful. We take the natural, which has a skin on, we roast that and grind it, and we do something that plays on the palate very similar to an espresso. So just really unfamiliar forms and kind of You know, when I think of another coffee replacer, this is back in the World War, where coffee was so expensive and scarce that we tapped into the chicory world, where here's another way to look at that. Maybe a caffeine-free way. Wow, something smells good. I smell garlic. Sorry, I'm Hungarian, so I smell garlic and I want to go that way. But you know, to have a reason to develop is always a really great way to go. And for me, the reason right now is just great nutrition and an all-natural format, and that's what really has inspired a lot of our product development. Long answer, but an answer nevertheless. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. We've got one right in the middle here, Molly.
You mentioned that you did ice cream with a creme.
Uh-huh.
Do I need an ice cream machine, or because if I'm doing it in the restaurant, what machine will I need, or what equipment will I need?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. The question was just about ice cream. How did we create that? What kind of mechanism was used? And you know, one of the most the high-performing machines that I've run across that is compact, because we do a lot of tabletop. This is our lab. We never know what kind of challenges come our way. So instead of having a giant commercial freezer, I have a really nice gelato maker. It's really important that you have something that's going to do that. You need something that's going to break your crystals down, something that's going to keep it moving and incorporate some air, some overrun. You know the term. If not, talk to me later. I'll learn it. But the bottom line is you just like any ice cream, you have to take the approach of what makes a good ice cream, which is small crystals and a little bit of air, which gives you some of that creaminess, and certainly the right sugar balance, the right sweetness, and then I think the right nutrition. You know, you need fat, you need carbohydrates and protein in an ice cream for it to be really good. That's what makes that rich finish. So I used a gelato machine, to be able to do the small batch benchtop that I did, and had a lot of success with it. Again, you got that really velvety texture and that real creaminess that you seek. Absolutely. Further question was, would a soft serve machine work? And absolutely. To me, a soft serve is sort of instead of vertical, it's sort of a horizontal, similar mechanism to a gelato machine, and that'll incorporate a lot of air into it as well. And similarly, before it goes into the machine, we do get it to a liquefied format, so it looks very liquid and creamy before we begin. So you have to have that texture ahead of time. Absolutely. Any other questions? Well, about my 10th year of being here, I'm so honored to be here with all of you, food scientists and esteemed members of the food industry. Thank you so much for having me and for having the Almond board at this session. Please, again, do come and see us at our booth, and we'd love to talk more almonds. Let's go nuts together at the Almond board booth. Go USA!